Thank you very much for the time. I'll take a few minutes to just talk through, and I'll share my presentation later, but I'll just talk through a few key points. And I did look through the program and realize that there has been a lot of talk about the free trade agreement. And so I'm hoping that I won't spend a lot of time in terms of just talking through that. But I think it's important to just reflect on three key observations or three key points for me. One is the kind of market that is created by the free trade area agreement, the Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, that it brings together over $3 trillion worth of GDP in the regional African economy, which, although previously would not have been accessible to SMEs from any part of the world, including SMEs in South Africa and in the Eastern Cape in this case, the free trade area essentially means that the playing field is actually been enlarged. I think that's the first one. I think it's important to notice that. And secondly, to say that as part of the free trade area, the intra-Africa trade as a proportion or percentage of total Africa trade is about 17, 18, 19%, depending on what number you're looking at from what study. With the free trade area, that number is expected to come up to grow by at least 50% in the next few years. I think that's another important aspect. The third important aspect that I think it's important for the SMEs is the non-tariff barriers. To say that historically, it's been quite a challenge for many SMEs and many exporters and importers to be able to move goods and services across borders, so goods across borders. And I think the gradual reduction of non-tariff barriers and the initiative put together by the Commission in the AU, and as far as the gradual reduction of that is an important aspect. Now, that is what the AfCFTA is meant to do, and essentially it's presenting that opportunity to all the SMEs that have been exhibiting in the Eastern Cape Export Symposium. Now, from a banking perspective, or from a finance perspective, the challenge that we're dealing with is that multiple studies will show that there is at least $120 billion worth of a financing gap. And that gap is largely on the SMEs. And the reasons why that is so, it's multiple reasons. Amongst others is, of course, it's lack of information from the SMEs themselves, generally speaking, because I might have started a business 6 months ago, which means I don't have 3 years worth of financial reports. The second important aspect is I might not be having any assets or to provide to banks as security, so that again starts to become a problem, and I might not even be profitable yet. So therefore, if you look through my financials, or if you look through my business, you may not be able to see all these kinds of things. Now, this is a problem that seizes us every day as a bank, as ABSA Group, in terms of what is it that we can do, or what is it that we can offer to the SMEs to be able to access financing better. Now, before I talk about what ABSA can do or what ABSA does, let me also just reflect a little bit about what financial institutions in general can do because of the free trade area. One of the things about financing is you finance better when you understand the ecosystem. Now, first and foremost, of course, there's a requirement for regulators to insist, in my view, on local content in terms of multiple projects that happen across the continent, but also to insist on the right kind of regulations around women-owned businesses and youth-owned businesses. So that's first aspect. But as far as financial institutions are concerned, I see an opportunity that now starts to be accelerated because we will be understanding the ecosystem within which the SME plays better. In other words, it may be it may be providing or supplying services and goods and services to a particular project, bigger project, which, for example, it's one that is AFCFTA endorsed, or it's part of the strategic investments that are being made in order to fast track the enablement of the free trade area. So one of the things that I think is critically important is that because these SMEs are part of these particular ecosystems, we start to have more information about the SMEs as a result of them being part of particular projects. And sometimes even particular trades that are quite important to the countries in questions. Now, having said that, from a bank perspective, there are multiple solutions that we have in place, and a lot of those have to do with understanding what the SME is, what kind of business the SME is doing, who they supply to. So if you think about it, and you look at an end-to-end, production cycle of any business or any sector, that starts with bidding. That starts to happen, for example, in terms of bidding for business. And in order to bid for business, a lot of contractors, a lot of sponsors would require bid guarantees, and then so if you started from needing to bid for business all the way up to performing and starting to supply, and then of course having supplied, sitting back and waiting for payments, in that working capital cycle or in that production cycle, there are many opportunities for us as banks to finance, and ABSA in particular has multiple solutions that range from the bid bonds, the performance bonds, that enable you to be able to play a part in bidding for business or bidding for particular projects. And then I think once you've done that and you start to have to perform, you start to have to provide services, we can look at a whole range of pre-production and pre-shipment financing in the form of either overdrafts, in the form of short-term loans, that allows us, having understood your own cash conversion cycle as a customer, to actually look at ways through which you can provide pre-production or pre-shipment financing that actually takes comfort in the fact that we understand your own cash conversion cycle. So that allows you to perform, that allows you to produce, that allows you to procure services. And then, of course, once you've then provided these services to multiple buyers across the continent, and importantly, because we are present in multiple countries, in at least 10 countries in the rest of the continent, in Southern Africa, in West Africa, as well as in East Africa, we're then able to look at who are these buyers that are actually that you are supplying to, who are these large local corporates, who are these public sector names that you are supplying to, and we can understand the ecosystem very well, to the extent that we can be able to look at those anchor buyers and be able to provide financing to you by discounting the receivables that we have in place, either through a supplier finance program or through a receivables program, or just normal invoice discounting, because we understand the ecosystem within which you operate. And sometimes after you've finished your project, there may be a need for retention bonds as you seek or you want to access the financing that may be retained as part of the project that you've engaged on. Now, in short, as I come to the closure, there are multiple forms of financing that we, as the bank, is able to provide. And you can talk to our various specialists that are stationed across the entire Eastern Cape, whether it is in East London or wherever, but in the entire Eastern Cape. So my apologies once again in terms of the presentation, but I think in summary, that is what we're able to do. And I think the free trade area, it's a great opportunity for all SMEs. Please come through to talk to us, talk to our specialists, talk to our bankers, and we'll be able to provide you more information on how best you can take advantage of these opportunities. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.